Who we are today is not who we were 5 to 7 years ago. What we feel today is not what we felt a little while ago. What we will feel tomorrow is based on how we set our mind. An impoverished mind does not know what to say or what to do, and openly, an intelligent mind is one that spends life understanding how lessons are learned. Lessons are learned through three means. My late father, a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, often taught this to his children, that people learn about things in life through three means. Those means are from our education and books. Those things are from other people and their life stories. And the third, of course, which is often the most educational and the most informational and sometimes the most painful, is through our own experiences. When we don't look at how we feel, when we look at how we are supposed to be, it's a very different story. And openly, there's always someone who thinks they've got the right to do things to other people which they don't. We need to talk more and more today about the boundaries of the world. The boundaries of the world is the one we live in. You see, we can live in the middle of the Midwest of America, but we are still bound by the citizenship of the world. In the citizenship of the world, we have the United Nations, which serves our country within a global community. We also have NATO and other organizations that once again serve our country within a global citizenship. A part of all of that, we have a Human Rights Declaration, which I've been really interested in the last several months of my life, if not perhaps the last 6 months. Why is because the articles of that declaration very much reflect the country which led the charge in trying to develop that for the rest of the world, which of course was Eleanor Roosevelt and the late husband, Theodore. The reality is that they put together something that made sense. And when they put that together, they put it together for people around the globe to have human rights. Human rights seem to have about 27 articles. And a good lawyer who loves America, who loves all people, should be able to, in 30 to 60 seconds, explain each article in a very fine, refined, and educational way, with a little bit of life story, not at all, with a way to explain the boundaries of a human being to another human being within regard to that particular treaty. You see, over 400 countries signed into that, which means as a person who's a citizen of America, or even a visitor to America, it's most likely that our nation, America, or our foreign nation, wherever that might be, has participated in the signature on that particular document, which means we are bound personally as citizens of those global nations to that particular document, and understanding each and every single article that applies to our lives and that of others around us, whether they be intimate relations or whether they be total strangers. Those 27 some articles that are part of that treaty are required for reading, I feel. When I talk like this, I'm talking more politician. When I talk like this, I'm talking about marketing ideas. When I talk like this, I'm talking about marketing of peace. Peace in a land comes about from several different types of constitutions or actual agreements, or if you will, a prosperous land. What I mean is that our first constitution really came from the Bible, the 10 Commandments, which you can find in various aspects and various forms across multiple types of documents. But within those 10 Commandments is pretty straightforward concepts of living. On top of that, we then have this international treaty, the World Federation put together, if you will, that talks about our rights as a human being. What our rights are relate to only our rights. Then we have our national treasures. Our national treasures are the actual U.S. Constitution that promises us a little bit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When I talk like this, I again am talking about it as a historian, an anthropologist, if you will, who has studied and understood and watched the film John Adams, how some of this stuff came about. But the reality is that when we talk about these things, we're encouraging people to look at those films, to study a little bit of history in a quick and easy way of a couple-hour educational piece, which is quite entertaining with the actors who play the roles. But openly, we also have this document called the Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights gives us literally additional rights in our land as an American citizen. We have the right to certain things. Under the First Amendment, one of the most holiest aspects is we have the right to worship however we choose. Whether we are a pagan priest like myself, who has gone through a study of multiple religions to discover that I believe that the Lord God made all people, all persuasions, and all spiritualities, with save exception of maybe one or two that are preaching hate, which is why I don't condone them. But openly, there is a native land that we live in that speaks to us all the time. I had a loving teacher who had a proprietary program that talked about the God signs of the earth and how the Lord and his angelic realm speaks to us. It was a profound, simple little course, inexpensive in nature back in my home state, but it literally gave me the educational information I needed to grow in many ways, in my religion and in my spirituality. I give her the great compliment. Her loving name was Annie. But that's not the point. The point is that there is more to life than just a few ideas. We also have other aspects of that First Amendment, such as the freedom of speech, the freedom to assembly, and other things that need to be educated to people so that they understand that they don't have the right to impede someone's right to do those things. They don't have the right to go ahead of them and taint the relationships an individual will make singularly on their own through trial and error, through conversation, through ups and downs, through battles, through strife, through love, through peacemaking, through regard, through honor. And that's what we need to understand. We also, of course, have an additional 17 of those, and they all cover different aspects of changes to our U.S. Constitution, or addendums, if you will, and most people don't even know what an addendum is. But in life, we have moments of time to learn things, and there's plenty of time as the election year starts to roll on for an incredible lawyer to start to give snippets of information about these items, clearly labeled so that the people of the world, the people of our nation, can see an educated, caring individual. When I talk about these things, I'm talking about real life. The truth is that international law trumps all federal law, according to the actual organizations that put those documents together. And they have lawyers out the wazoo to do that. Our federal laws also trump all local ordinances and are basically the basis for most of our state and local laws. Interestingly enough, a good percentage of those laws are talking about thou shalt not steal, which originally originates from the Bible. When we're talking about thou shalt not steal, it means thou shalt not steal what the Lord has gifted through his bequeathment and her bequeathment to an individual. An individual's job is allegedly given through God, because God moves people to connect, to make plans, and to develop strategies and relationships that produce an income, a result, some resources for people to live on. There's also another aspect of life we need to consider, which is the moral conduct of our land. We've gotten so far away from taking care of our environment, it's not even funny. We've got so many people driving by thinking they've got rights to control someone else's life. It's not right anymore. You see, in life we have moments of time to prove who we are, and when we don't know it, we start to hear the Lord all the time. The Lord will prompt you with a quiet voice. Whatever you call the Lord will do that. Whatever you believe as the divine architect of our land, of our people, of every living thing, you can call with whatever name you feel comfortable, as long as it's done in love, regard, and honor. And most people forget to thank the Lord for all he does, putting food on your table, a roof over your head if you have the ability, and openly every aspect of our life comes from God. If we're not pleased in the area of life that we should be, we have the freedom in our land to change course. And that's one of the wonderful aspects of living in America. But today, we must have a lawyer in the White House. A lawyer in the White House can look things over, make sure someone's not monkeying with original documents, make sure we're not being lied to about our rights in this land. Our rights in this land begin and end with three basic concepts: personhood, paperwork, and property. Our personhood is our cellular health, both internally and externally, as well as our whole entire being in terms of what we share with people and what we don't share with people, publicly and privately. In regard to paperwork, we have all these legal documents that are related to our life. They tend to be banking and finance. They tend to be education. They tend to be medical records. They tend to be things that are practical in the day-to-day aspects of a human life. And final aspects we have is property. The property are the things that the Lord has opened the door for us to receive. He opened the door because He has created all people, all predilections, and openly those people tended to give us things, or they sell us things that we can utilize to create our property. We often pick up property when we're going and traveling and having wonderful world experiences. It is all still our property. It is immoral, it is highly illegal for anyone in any industry that supports people's housing to interfere with the Lord's right to bequeath and give to someone the experiences, the products, the tools, the toys that the Lord has chosen for that individual's life. Something I've learned in the last 5 years is how supple the mind is, but how incredible the Lord becomes. Because He can literally put you on their path to be protected and safe when you're praying from Him and praying to Him. But in life we have moments of time to make a difference for someone. The time to make a difference for this man's life is now. When you play like you don't have to do anything, when you play like you don't want to talk to someone, all you're doing is showing God that you don't have regard for what He builds in this world for everyone's life. We are wasting our landfills filled with plastics and things that are not biodegradable, and something I've learned as a person who sleeps outside is that different metals and different woods and different stones and different concrete has an impact on the human body. There are some metals and some plastics that are being utilized in our parks today that totally deplete the human body of all its resources. The same can be said for concrete, brick, and other things. Wood, depending literally on how it's treated, can also have a life-sucking event. Then the wood is literally considered dead once it's in a construction of some kind. So it shows some of the predatory relationships we live in, but we don't usually talk about those things very often unless something goes wrong. The truth is, if you have information about my life and someone gossiped to you, I'd like to know who that is, because that then proves that you're a person of God, that you have opportunities in life, but you're not going to steal from someone who is less off than you, less educated than you, and less trained than you. Most of the problems of the world today are a lack of training, and most of the problems that are in this world today are caused by people who fail to learn where their rights begin and other rights end. In this little Magic and Mayhem audiocast, I'm speaking specifically to one of the greatest opportunities we have coming up, which is the upcoming presidential election. Trump might have put this concept in on the illness of health, because I've not seen a sign posted very often that openly he's doing this to keep people from the electoral polls so he can play in a little longer as a member of this household. In life we have moments of time to tell someone how you feel, and how it feels to be talked to the way that I'm talked to is exhausting for an old man, but these young 20-somethings haven't thought a thing about going forward in life. And that is a great shame and truly a subhuman concept that we must overcome. In life there are moments of time to know when to speak and what to say, and what not to speak and what to say, and I had that recent experience, that someone thought they'd ply me with cigars. I looked through the box and found they were all wet from the rain before. Maybe it was a part of the play to make me look bad. Maybe it was a part of the play to find out what I had. Maybe it was a part of the play for them to just be on my path today. But in life, we don't have many coincidences. And in death, we must be aware that there's always someone who's vying for America and really wants to take over a human life here. It's why I stay up as long as I do. It's why I try and hang out around the Chinese places as much as I do. And openly, if I can find them, if the Lord will teach me, I will put things to rights. In life, we have moments of time to make a difference for someone. When you listen, when you communicate, when you talk, when you share love, it proves that you are in the house of the Lord. Anytime you don't do that, anytime you put disease together, you will be liable to the Lord in heaven for the interference that you have made in that individual's plans who threw out too much, way too much for her to be interested in now. Thanks for listening.